The Prince and the Honest Girl, a story from Saudi Arabia by Khalid al-Zurani. A long time ago, there was a young prince who wanted very much to find a wife. The prince wanted his wife to be beautiful, but much more than that, the young prince wanted to marry an honest girl whom he could trust. One day, the prince decided how he might find such a wife. "There will be a competition," he said, "and all of the girls in the village will be able to enter." So the girls of the village gathered to hear the prince speak. They were all very beautiful, and all very eager to marry the handsome prince. "I know how I will decide which of you will be my wife," declared the prince. "I will give each of you a flower seed, and the one who grows the biggest and most beautiful flower will be my bride." Each of the girls took a seed and promised to return the following month to attend a festival at which the prince would choose his bride. The festival would be a great celebration, and the whole village would attend so that they might see who would become the prince's bride. The month passed quickly, and the day of the festival soon arrived. There was food and music and much celebrating in anticipation among the villagers. Each of the girls arrived in turn, each with her flower in a small clay pot, each flower more beautiful and luscious than the last, but one girl, a shy and quiet girl from the village, arrived with nothing but a pot of sand. In the middle of this pot was a seed but no flower. The girls with their beautiful flowers said to her, "Why have you come when you have not grown a flower from your seed?" The villagers jeered and laughed at her for not being able to grow a simple flower when the other girls had done so well. "How is it that you have grown no flower from your seed?" they asked her. Suddenly the villagers fell silent. The prince had arrived, and it was time to choose his wife. The prince examined all of the flowers and remarked how beautiful they were. And each girl was sure she would be chosen as the prince's bride. But when the prince stood before the girl who had nothing but a pot of sand, he said to her, "You shall be my bride." The villagers were very surprised, but the prince spoke to them, saying, "I choose this girl because none of the seeds that I gave were fertile. I had boiled them, and so they could not grow into flowers. These other girls must have replaced my seed with another so that they could grow these flowers and deceive me. But this girl is the honest one, and so I choose her for my bride." That very day, the young prince and the young girl were married, and the whole of the village celebrated into the night, and they toasted the marriage of the prince and his honest bride. The little beggar. Long, long ago and far, far away this story was told, and it has been told ever since. And I tell it to you now. There was, in the city of Basra, when the evening was falling, a rosy glow upon the buildings around the central bazaar. And there was a little beggar, famous throughout the city for his japes and jokes and songs. The tailor and his wife were returning from carousing. They invited the little beggar to come home with them to entertain them. And there he was in their house regaling them with a story. And they fed him a piece of white meat from a fish. The little beggar choked upon a bone in the meat. He fell backwards from the stool and onto the ground and lay there, motionless. "Ah, wife, what have we done? This little man has come to our house as a guest to entertain us, and we have murdered him. What will happen to my reputation?" Dressmaker and his wife, the tailor and his wife, bundled the little beggar into a roll of carpet, and they carried him from their house and through the streets of Basra, where now it was getting gloomy and dark. "Our child is sick, stay away. Our child has scarlet fever." The people did not come close until one woman said, "My master is a doctor. Follow me." And they followed the woman to a house with steps running all the way up to the front door. It was the house of the Jewish doctor. They followed her to the top step and left the body of the little beggar there. Of course, they took the carpet away with them. The doctor came out into the darkness and did not see the body of the little man in front of him, stumbled, and the body was knocked down the steps all the way to the bottom. The doctor ran down the steps. What have I done? A patient comes to me to be cured, and I've killed him. What will happen to my reputation? The doctor carried the body into the house. He decided what he must do. He lowered the body from his balcony into his neighbor's backyard. His neighbor, the Muslim steward of the royal kitchens, there, among the bags of flour and sacks of sugar, was propped the body of the little beggar. At that moment, the Muslim steward of the royal kitchens came home. What is this noise in the backyard? He took a club, went into the backyard, and saw a figure leaning there. He'd thought it was rats, but this. He struck him hard between the shoulders, and the little beggar slumped to the ground. What have I done? A beggar comes into my backyard to take a little sugar and flour, and I have killed him. Oh, whatever will happen to me for this murder? And the Muslim steward of the kitchen seized the body and went out through the front of the house and into the streets of Basra, which were now empty, for it was late at night. Along a dark alleyway he went towards the canal, where he would dispose of the body. But as he came along he heard, coming in the opposite direction, the singing of a Christian who was clearly drunk. He propped the body against a corner and went back the way he had come. And now, along came that drunk man, that Christian moneylender, singing at the top of his voice after a night of drinking. What is this here in the shadows? A thief. Oh, you won't get away with it. And he seized the little beggar's body by the shoulders and started dashing his head against the wall. Thief! Thief! The watchmen came running along the alleyway. They seized the Christian. You, Christian moneylender, have murdered this man in the streets. The next morning at dawn, the area in front of the great bazaar in the heart of Basra was thronging with people. Before them sat the Sultan, next to him, the governor, and next to them, upon a table, was the body of the little beggar. In front of them stood the Christian moneylender. You, said the governor, you who have often had dealings with the Sultan, you have killed a man in the street for no good reason. What have you to say for yourself? The Christian stood. I am guilty. You should punish me. The Christian moneylender was led to the scaffold. A rope was put around his neck. He prepared to die, when a voice came from the crowd. He is innocent. Set him free. You should punish me. There stood the Muslim, the steward. He was already dead when I left him in the alleyway. I killed him. I struck him for he was stealing sugar and flour from my backyard. You, said the governor, who have supplied food for the royal kitchens all these years, have murdered a poor beggar? The steward must be hanged by the neck until dead. The steward was led to the scaffold. The rope now put around his throat. He prepared to die. When there was a cry from the crowd, he is innocent. Set him free. You should punish me. There stood the Jewish doctor. It was I who killed the little beggar. He was already dead when I lowered him into my neighbor's backyard. I had kicked him down the steps outside my house. You, the doctor, said the governor, who have treated and healed the Sultan on many occasions, have murdered one of your patients. The doctor must be hanged by the neck until dead. The Jewish doctor was taken to the scaffold. The rope was now taken from the Muslim and put around his neck. He prepared to meet his Maker when, from the crowd, a cry, he is innocent. Set him free. You should punish me. And there stood the tailor. I killed the little beggar. He came to my house to tell me and my wife stories, and we choked him with a fishbone. It is our fault that he is dead. We put him at the doctor's front door, the tailor who has clothed the Sultan all these years. The tailor must be hanged by the neck until dead, and now the tailor was led to the scaffold, the rope put around his neck. and he prepared to die. The crowd was hushed. At last there would be an execution. But a cry, "He is innocent." "Set him free." Enough," said the governor. "Enough," said the Sultan. "Somebody must pay. Who is it that speaks?" Beside them there stood a little wizened old man with a long gray beard. It was the barber. He stood next to the body of the little beggar. "There is a mystery to this death, and the mystery is that there is no death. He is still breathing. See." And he took a pair of tongs from his leather bag, and he took a pot of ointment and rubbed the ointment onto the throat of the little beggar and inserted the tongs and pulled out the fish bone. And the little beggar sat up with a cough and a splutter. "Oh, thank you. Thank you one and all for being here to save me. How will I ever repay you? You have tried to save me after I choked on the bone. First of all you kicked me down steps. And then you knocked me on the back with a club. And then you dashed my head against the wall. And now you have taken that bone from my throat and I am well again." "Strange," said the Sultan. "Never have I heard a more remarkable story than this of the little beggar. It must be written down on a scroll and kept in the royal library." "I beg to differ, Your Majesty," said the little beggar. "I have far stranger stories that I can tell." And with that he thanked all those that had gathered in the streets of Basra by telling them one of his most remarkable stories.